Hello, and welcome back to Take a Little Coffee Break. Today, we are going to talk to our Enneagram 5s. Right off the bat, when I was looking through the footage and even right after the interview, I immediately knew the difference between this one and the previous ones that I've done. And it's that this interview, I could tell it was so mellow, like just not boring, but just calm, a little bit more calm than the other ones actually. So I thought that was really interesting because, and I think it definitely goes very well with their personality and just kind of just makes sense. So I'm excited for you guys to hear it, and let me tell you guys a little bit about the 5s. A type 5 is a person who pulls back from the world and others to observe and prefers to live in their mind. They may be wise, visionary, and knowledgeable, or abstract, stingy, eccentric, and intellectually arrogant. Their core fear is being annihilated, invaded, or not existing, being thought incapable or ignorant, having obligations placed upon them, or their energy depleted. Their core desire is being capable and competent. And their core weakness is avarice. I think I'm saying that right. Feeling that they lack inner resources and that too much interaction with others will lead to catastrophic depletion, withholding themselves from contact with the world, holding onto their resources, and minimizing their needs. And their core longing is your needs are not a problem. So this is very, very interesting. And I haven't mentioned this in any of the other summaries that I've given before with each number, but I'm reading this off of the yourenneagramcoach.com website. I can put it in the show notes for you guys if you want, so you can go check it out. But they have awesome resources. So here is our wonderful conversation with our Enneagram 5s. Well, thanks for doing this. This is exciting because, well, first of all, Cody, I did not say this is my favorite for everyone, just the 8s. Okay. I was excited for all of them, but the 8s were my favorite. But I think this is my second favorite because both of y'all are so cool. So, and I feel like both of y'all are so healthy in your number. And I think it's so cool that both of y'all are 5s. I wouldn't have thought that you would be a 5, Cody.
I was honestly surprised that
Right? I was so surprised.
Yeah, I hide it well.
Okay, so welcome. I'm so excited to interview you guys and ask you all the questions. I think my first question would be, how did you find out you were 5, or even just how you found out about the Enneagram? How did you feel when you found out you were a 5? What was your reaction?
Well, I took a test.
I think everyone did, yeah.
So I don't know. I've known about the Enneagram for, I guess, years at this point, but you know, it started becoming more popular, and so I started doing more research, and just out of curiosity more than anything. Such a 5. Took the test to see what I was. So honestly, I wasn't surprised. It makes sense. And then the more I dug into it, the more I was like, yeah, that's me. I do that. I do all of those things. So
yeah. I was reading over it and I was like, yes, to like Brittany, especially you, because I feel like it's the whole investigative thinker. When you like think about something, or when you start researching something, you like really dive into it, and it's like really cool to see, because all of a sudden you're an expert on like this one subject. And I'm like learning so much about chickens, like, like this is awesome.
Cody, all of the things I learn are cool.
I know. They matter.
Cool, but
they're cool. Cody.
Yeah, I took a test. Just kidding.
Go.
Well, we were required to take it for the training team we were on.
Okay.
I actually didn't believe it when I first took it. So then I took it probably 25 more times. Every time I got a different Enneagram number.
That's awesome.
So I can manipulate the test now for what number I want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a 5. Yeah, I think that's.
How did you feel when you found out about it?
So I'm a psych minor, so I didn't really, I don't enjoy these things per se too much. But what I do love about it is that it shows you how to love others well.
Yeah.
That's the focus. So when I found out about it, I was like, I don't care about myself, but I want to hear what my wife is. So that's what really.
Aww. What's your wife?
She's a 2.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that.
She's like sweet. Jesus. So
she's like. Do you say she's like Jesus?
Yeah. According to the Enneagram test, it tells you like who you're like.
Oh, like famous people who are also this.
Yeah. Jesus is number 2.
That's so interesting. I heard somewhere that he's like all the numbers, but if I were to pick one, I feel like he would be a 2, just because he's like always thinking about other people. Obviously, he died for us. Anyway, moving on. So what is your favorite part about being a 5? Like once you kind of like really learned about yourself and the type of person that you are, what do you think is your favorite part about your number?
I don't know. I just really like to learn things. And to be clear, I was not the best student. I mean, not like a lack of intelligence. I got bored with things really, really fast. And so I was just always moving on to the next thing. And so the structure of school, I never really enjoyed. I actually hate school. Like, I do not like it. I do not like sitting in a classroom. I do not like it, Sam, I am. But I love learning. I love learning new skills. I love learning new things. My mind is always working. Like, it just, the wheels are always turning. And I think for me too, like, you know, it's fun to find new hobbies, new things that I enjoy for like a Sabbath. Like, hey, this is something that I can do. Like,
yes,
to rest in a different way. And so I feel like I'm constantly learning some other new thing, and it becomes sort of a way of, resting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
a lot like Brittany. I really enjoy investigating, learning things. I mean, that's partly why we're going where we're going as missionaries. But that I just, and like Brittany, I didn't like school at all. I wasn't really a good student. I get bored. The subject, yeah, I mean, I feel like you can learn a lot in a few hours.
Yes.
And I feel like school drags on, you know, you're like, oh, we get it. Like, yeah. So, yeah, for me, being a 5 means I can learn to make systems and ideas better. So I can catch this big vision for something, like the end goal. And then I just need someone to come alongside me and help me achieve that goal. But I can give you like, hey, this is the big picture. This is what we could do. We just have the right resources to come alongside us.
That's so cool. Do you agree with that? Do you resonate with that, Brittany?
Yes. Yeah.
I
think there's also, I think 5s are also interesting because from my experience, and then what I've seen in other 5s, is the ability to, like Cody said, see the big picture. But there's also, you get a lot of 5s that have the ability to see all the details that it'll take to get there. So I don't know.
That's so true. I think we definitely need 5s in our lives. And something that I've learned just from being close to you, Brittany and Patty, is that you see beyond what most people see. Like for me, like I'm a 9, and sometimes I can be a little bit big picture. Sometimes I can be detailed, but other times I'm like a little scatterbrained or I get foggy a lot. And so when Patty and I did the internship together, and I remember when we would study or think about class or whatever, she would say, hey, have you this is how I'm going to do it because like of this, or this is like what I'm going to do to get this end result. And I'm just like, Oh yeah. And she would just laugh because she's like, I know. Like you're welcome. And I'm just like, okay. And I think it's just so needed just because like not everybody like it's so the details are so important a lot of the times and I don't think everybody understands that or sees that in the moment, but like that's why you need fives because they're able to kind of tell you, hey, you're missing this little piece of the puzzle right here that was like all the way to the other side and nobody kind of saw it, but I did because like I know the details and it's just really cool. I love that and I appreciate that about you guys so much. So kind of flipping it around, what's your least favorite thing? What's your least favorite thing about being a five?
I think also that I can't shut my brain off.
It's a blessing and a curse.
It's a blessing and a curse. Yes. I don't know. I have a hard time relaxing if things are unorganized. Like Dane can just sit down. He's so easy. He's seriously like the most easygoing guy ever. And he can sit down and he cannot care about the little things. And I sit down and I look around the room and I'm like, that needs to be fixed and that needs to be fixed. And we need to do that. And
Wow.
we need to do that. And like my brain just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And so
wow. How do you feel like that, Cody?
Yeah, I agree. Even like, I mean, I'll go to, I can fall asleep, but as soon as I wake up, I'm still in the same thought I was having that night. Like, it's like kind of there.
yeah.
And it drives, the one thing I don't like about being a five, I mean, personally, is the need to perfect a system or a way of doing things constantly. I feel like there's always a better way to do it. So I'm constantly striving to make it better. Not because I'm a perfectionist, just because I have to think it through again and again and again. Cause I don't want it to be perfect. I just want it to be convenient. So how can we make it the most convenient way and not waste time is my mentality, you know? So
wow. Do you ever like walk into a room and think about like, is that the first thing you think about when you walk into a room or like a ministry or a church or whatever? Is that like, okay, this could be easier for them. Like, is that the first thing you think about? Or do you just kind of like sit there and then you kind of, it comes as you're like kind of going along your day?
It's not the first thing I think about. I don't necessarily think I'm a really critical person.
Okay.
It's not like I'm just walking around judging everything.
I didn't mean to like make it sound like you are. I'm just like, I think it's your thinking process. I didn't mean to make it sound like you were critical, but sorry if it came off that way. But I was just wondering, like, if you ever walk and just be like, oh, this could, like, not in like a bad way, but just like, oh, this could be easier. Sorry.
Yes, I definitely do that. I don't always voice it because I don't always need to and very often shouldn't. So that's been like a thing of maturing and learning and understanding.
Yeah.
Like when it's appropriate because, you know, immature Brittany would have just said it, but mature Brittany is like, better not.
Let me not.
That's being a healthy five.
What did you say?
I said that's being a healthy five. That's
yeah. I know it is. I think she's very healthy. What about you, Cody? Do you feel that way?
We visit a lot of churches and we go into a lot of ministries, and it's not my first thought, but I will have many thoughts while I'm in there and I won't voice them, but I will have many thoughts of saying, well, if they did this, it'd probably be more proficient.
Yeah.
If they did this, you know, blah, blah, blah. I never voice anything. But sometimes I will tell Kelly when we get in the car, like, hey, I like what they did here. If that other church would have done that, you know, or something like that. Like,
yes. I feel like that's why fives make such good leaders, because they're able to kind of find the most efficient way. I think that's really cool. So what makes you feel most loved as a five? This is a mushy question.
A mushy question. I don't know necessarily what makes me feel most loved as a
yes, you do.
five.
I'm just kidding.
Well, okay, so like if we're thinking of what makes me feel loved, like my first thought goes to like what is my love language? And for me, it's acts of service. That's my love language. I feel most loved. Like, and Dane's so good about it because he knows me. You know, we're going on 10 years of marriage and he just gets me. And so he knows that what will speak love to me the most is to recognize that I've done dishes like a lot this week. And but he's so quick to jump in and serve and do those little things that I do often, like every single day, and he just jumps in and he does them. And so for me, like acts of service, like doing things that are part of my normal routine, jumping in and taking over that and just allowing me to rest. Or I think for me too, like, because type 5s, like my energy stores are so valuable. And so I think when I'm tired or when I'm really stressed, what also speaks love to me is for Dane to be like, hey, why don't you go out for a bit? Like, go to a coffee shop or go in the room and read, like go get alone, get in a quiet place, because he knows I'm like, I've reached my limit. And he recognizes that. So I think for me, that's probably what makes me feel the most loved is, hey, I've got the dishes. The kids are being really loud, so why don't you go into the room or just go somewhere?
Yes, I was going to say, especially as a parent, I feel like that just goes a long way, because it just, that energy depletion part is like huge. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, that's so sweet. Love that. Cody?
Yeah, I will say alone time is important for me often. I mean, usually what'll happen is late at night, we have a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old. So our 2-year-old will go to sleep, and then I'll put the 5-month-old to sleep. And then instead of Kelly, like, talking about our day or anything, she just knows that, hey, you need like an hour just to do whatever you want, but you just need an hour. You can go outside, you can read a book, whatever you want. So she does that for me almost every night, which is big, because I get drained. So I'm like, and that's another thing. I don't want to be that way, but the reality is that I need time by myself.
Yeah. And it's something I noticed about both of you guys is you mentioned books and how that's like a way that you rest, which is really cool, because most people, if they are tired at the end of the day, they're like, I don't want to read, or like, I just want to zone out or whatever. So it's really cool that that's like a restful thing for you guys, is to just kind of like chill, be quiet, and read. I think that's really cool. Okay, so kind of like on the flip side again, what makes you feel not appreciated, or what's something that somebody would do that just makes you feel like, hey, that wasn't cool?
And I think for me, I like to know that I'm needed. That's a big thing for me. And so to feel like I'm not needed, like I'm not an essential part of the team.
Wow. Yeah.
That can be really hard for me sometimes, when I do have opinions and I do have thoughts and I don't feel like I'm being heard or valued in that sense. That's kind of hard for me.
Yeah. That is one of the was it a core fear?
Yeah.
It's a core fear of like feeling like not essential or like not needed. Yeah. Cody?
For me, it's someone being too intrusive in my life without relationship,
Oh, wow.
And it's hard in our career, because through the application process and all this stuff, they're kind of intrusive, and it makes me very uncomfortable. I mean, I'm very loyal to my friends, but I'm also, I'm a friendly guy. I just don't give my time and energy to everybody.
Yeah.
So I have a group of people, which is funny because I chose a terrible career, but I have a group of people that that I really love and will give all day to if they wanted it. But I don't like it when people take my time away from me or intrude in my life when I don't want them there.
Yeah.
So,
I think boundaries are big for me.
And
And I've learned that over the years. My relationships are actually best when I know how to set proper boundaries for myself and for them.
Wow.
Like, hey, like if it is a relationship with somebody where I'm like, I don't really know you that well, I don't really trust you, you know, those kinds of things. Or if it's, you know, I've got family members, you know, where there are boundaries that need to be set there. And, you know, just for their sake, but also for mine, because there's only so much that I have to be able to give to those kind of like hard conversations and things like that. And, you know, because everybody's family has stuff going on.
Yeah.
My family certainly has a lot. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of hard conversations and a lot of phone calls because we live far away. So I don't like to be ambushed with those kinds of things. I like to know what I'm going into so I can be prepared.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I'm ambushed with those kind of hard conversations, I'm drained so quickly because I don't feel like I was prepared for it.
Wow.
I feel like they breached my boundaries, you know.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. Wow, that's so interesting. How do you feel do you feel that way, Cody?
Yeah, we're in a stage of life in our jobs and stuff where we bring up a lot of the hard conversations. But
yeah,
the training and everything beforehand, someone else did it to us. And I was, yeah, it was very tough. Just to say like, you know, like, hey, I love you, but I don't really necessarily trust everything you say yet. You know, I don't know you good enough to take your word and say, okay, let's run with it.
Yeah.
So even, and that's not like, I'm not fighting authority there. It's just who I am. And it takes me a little bit to like settle down and say, okay, no, I need to trust them. They've done this for X amount of years and they da-da-da. So at least on my end, like that's tough, you know?
Do you think that distrust comes from like, if you don't really know somebody really well, do you think that distrust kind of comes from like, hey, I don't know, like if you know what you're talking about, or is it more of just like kind of like Brittany was talking about, like boundaries, like, wait, we're not there yet? Because I'm thinking about the investigative thinker and like you're in part of you guys. So I was wondering like where that kind of comes from both of y'all.
I think maybe it's both.
Okay.
Like I'm a big people watcher. I watch people on campus, you know. I mean, Erica, you know, we're out on campus, we're watching students, we're having conversations, and we see the same people come up over and over and over again.
Yeah. You
know, we're standing out there with that question on the board and having these like tough conversations about eternal things. And there have been people that have even been with us, like in our group, some of the new people where I'm like, I'm watching you. And so the distrust isn't like,
yes,
like Cody said, it's like, hey, I love you, but I just don't trust you yet. And so part of it, I think, is just not knowing them well enough. But I'm very, very observant, and I watch the way people speak. I watch the way that they speak to people, the way that they speak about people. Like I pay attention to all of those little things. And so for me, I'm like, sometimes the distrust is because I actually do know them very well, because I've been watching them.
Wow.
So there's that side of things too.
Yeah.
But then, you know, also boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what Brittany said was 100%. It's not like fives. We love people, and it's not, you know, we're not saying like we're judging you. We're waiting for you to screw up so we can know like what you're bad at. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is we overanalyze a person or a situation, and we know your strengths and weaknesses. So when something gets brought up that's in your weaknesses category, we don't put as much weight as to if it were brought up in your strength category.
Okay.
That's kind of how like in a team setting sometimes. Kelly's a great opposite of me. I mean, she loves people unconditionally. Like what they say is what they mean, and it is what it is. But when, like, if Erica says something to me, I would overanalyze it, determine based on your personality and like who you are, and say, okay, what did that mean in that moment? And so anyway, it's just you can overanalyze what's going on. Which it can be a strength and a weakness depending on the situation. But
Well, it makes so much sense, Brittany. I feel like I'm learning so much about both of y'all, but like, it makes so much sense now because I've always admired. Okay, I remember my first week being on campus and like doing, with the questions and like people.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, welcome week for us in our ministry, we all week, and Cody, you might not even know this either, but all week our welcome week, basically our biggest like recruitment, if you say, is through our booth time, which is basically we just have a question on the board. It's not even like a real booth. Like we literally are standing right in front of the library. We have a question on the board that's going to make people think, and then they come and answer that question. And sometimes it could be a little controversial or like, it just makes you think. And I remember being terrified that first week because I've never done it before like that, not even at Sam. And so I was like, okay, how are we going to, and just watching Brittany was so incredible because, and now it makes sense, Brittany, because of the way that you say, like when you would see people talk to other people, you could tell a lot about them. You knew exactly what to say. And, part of it is experience because you had been on staff for a few years by that, like whenever I came in, but part of it is experience, but I think a lot of it is just, exactly how to talk to people because because you're so observant and because you know exactly what they're thinking. Like I feel like you see the little details and you're like, I know what you're thinking, and it's in such a nice and sweet and gentle way, and like a loving way, but also convicting. Like, whoa, like I remember just like hearing your own, it's like they just got like stabbed. Like, but they were like, yeah, thank you. It's like it was like spiritually stabbed. I don't know.
I think it's important to add that we can't discount the Holy Spirit and his leading. And a lot of it is honestly it's that. And I absolutely believe that what the Lord does is he takes our personalities, which is why like I think the Enneagram is really, really cool. And I've certainly learned a lot about my friends and my spouse and and myself through it. But it's not like the Holy Grail. It's not like this end all be all, like this is going to tell you everything you need to know about yourself around you kind of thing.
It's just a tool.
Like it's a tool. Yeah. And so that's what I look at it as. But ultimately I know that I'm not going to really understand myself unless I really understand the Lord and who he is, and therefore who I am because of him. And so for like things like that and those kinds of conversations, I think it's important to remember that like, I might know a lot about, I might be really observant and I might be able to notice a lot of things about somebody, their character, or have very quick first impressions that might even sometimes be really spot on because I've been watching them. But more than anything, I think it's just saying, Lord, what word do you have for this person?
Yes. And discernment.
And our personalities and our strengths and uses those. So
I completely agree. I think that it's definitely, I think that just being there in front, there are definitely times where I knew God gave me the words because I have no idea like where this was going to go. So yes, I love that. Okay, so have you always known that, do you think that you've always been a 5, or do you think that something shifted kind of throughout your life where you used to be like another number or a different personality type, and then you just kind of like evolved into what you are now?
I actually originally got mistyped as a 9.
Okay.
Dane is a 9.
Yes.
So I have a lot, there's like so many different things on Instagram and like all these things that you can look up that have these like little nuggets of information about the different Enneagrams. And so there's a lot about a 9 personality that I resonate with. And so I think part of that is because I'm married to a 9. But I think there are some genuine things, whether it's my personality or just things that have kind of developed throughout my life based on my experiences, that those are sort of my default responses and reactions to situations, kind of favor what a 9 would do sometimes. So
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I can see that too. I can see a little bit of a 9 in you. And I think it is cool because like you when you get married, you really do become I've always heard like you become one, you know, that's like a thing that you hear. But it wasn't until I got married that I'm like, oh, this is like what this person is literally, we are one. Like everything changed in such a beautiful way. Like, but it is kind of like you kind of have this connection now where you're like, I get you, and I get like why you think what you think, and it's just there's something so personal about living with somebody else that you start realizing like why they are the way that they are. So I think that that's really cool that you explained it that way. Cody.
Actually, I was gonna tap into the marriage thing too and say, I think after Kelly and I got married, we both, when we're together, we gravitate like combined 7, almost like that.
Yes, I love that.
things kind of go out the window, and like our personalities meet, and we become like this 7, you know.
I love that.
So I think in that way we change. I think I'm actually constantly adapting my 5, and I got mistypecast as a 7 when I took it a few times, and I got 7 the second most.
Wow.
I think, yeah. So I think there's a lot in there, and part of that is because my friend Will, he's a 7, and I think we think a lot alike, and we kind of act the same sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, that's discipleship. I think that's just,
yeah,
what it is. So, but I think I've always been a 5. I don't. Now that I look into it and research it and realize what's going on, I grew up in a tough home, so being away from everyone, getting what I need to get out of everything, like that was just who I was. And so
yeah,
I think I'm slowly adapting out of that into a more healthier, state.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like, I feel like when I found out that I was a 9, I think I was very self-aware that I was not a healthy 9. I was like, oh, I have a lot of things to work on. Now that we've kind of talked a lot about your personalities, who you are, is there anything that you might want people to know that we didn't cover about being a 5?
I feel like they should know that we do actually like people. More than anything, us needing space is not about you guys. It really is just, I'm a better person if I get some time alone.
Yeah. I love that.
Like, I'm a better wife, I'm a better mom, I'm a better friend.
Yeah.
If I get a little bit of space and recharge my battery and just can like process some thoughts and some feelings.
Yeah.
I'm just in general a much better person. But I do enjoy people. I actually really, really enjoy people. And you've seen me around groups of people. Like, it's not like I just sit in the corner like.
No, yeah. It's fun. Like, you're fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I try to be. But I think that, and I don't know, probably just that.
Okay. No, yeah, that's good. Cody?
Definitely. We do love people. And we're not judging you. Just FYI, we're not judging. I would say, I think 5s make good leaders, not because we're special, but because of our analytical brain and how we see the world. We can go into things with a little bit less emotion and a little more dose of reality sometimes. The heart is deceiving, I think, sometimes. And so can be the brain. But like Brittany said, talking about guiding the Holy Spirit, I feel like because we can be a little analytical, because we can see differently, I think the Holy Spirit uses us in different ways to help people around us succeed. Not just succeed, but succeed better. I think this is stupid, but a sports analogy would be the difference between a good quarterback and a bad quarterback, or a great quarterback and a good quarterback. A good quarterback can like throw the ball down the field and make the plays. a great quarterback makes the receiver a better receiver. So still makes the play. So I think that's what God uses, this type of personality to make people around you better. And I think, we're not special. I just think that's just a thing that, we strive to do. So.
Yeah, that's really well put. And yeah, a good leader makes everybody around them just better. If they're willing to, to be a team player. But, okay. So far, this next question, so far, every number has said basically the same thing. And that's describe your most restful day. So I'm interested to see if the trend will continue with you guys, because every number so far is like, yep, same, yep. So how would you describe your most restful day?
Okay, so I think maybe this kind of ties into the last question too. I don't think this applies to all fives, like that we just want to sit around reading books all the time in a quiet space. Like, I am a really active person. I love exercise. I love the outdoors. I love exploring. I love adventure. And so sometimes the most restful thing for me is to go outside and do something or be really, really, really active. It does normally involve like getting space from large crowds. I still like to be around people, but the people that I'm around, for it to be restful, matters. So like, I don't feel like being around my husband is draining to me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not like I just have to be completely alone. He's like my person, So for me, having like the right people around, people that I trust, people that I don't feel like I'm having to pour myself out into, but I'm just like, I can just be with, that's really restful for me. So like, it's not always just sitting around reading a book, which I love, for the record. But that's not necessarily the most restful thing for me. A lot of times I like to go out and I like to do stuff, and I get bored really quickly of just sitting around doing nothing. So I don't know if it's the same for Cody. He might be like, I just want to do nothing all day. Me, and maybe it's because I just like to learn so much, and the wheels are always turning. I like a little bit of time to just sit and do nothing, but then I'm like, okay, I need to go do something.
Yeah. That's cool.
I don't like to sit around and do nothing. If I do that, I actually kind of become cranky and mean. As a parent, you're like, it's just nice to have silence, but I'd rather have silence while I'm working with hands. So a restful day for me would probably be some carpentry work. Maybe studying some astrology. Nice. I like space and that sort of thing. At night, it'd be cool to go stargazing. And then right before bed, 30-minute little old dead guy book, something like that would be pretty sweet. But a full day would be like building a deck and then stargazing, and then at the very end of the day, a cup of coffee and a book.
Nice. Yes, that's awesome. And I love that both of y'all kind of, and I think this should be true for everybody, because I've like read a lot about resting and what resting means, and like what a real rest is, not just like what the world thinks rest is. And I've listened to like podcasts and things like that, and a lot of them that I feel like is very wise is just diving into a hobby, diving into something that you love, because it gives you like joy. It brings joy. And I think that that's such a restful thing. And I don't think a lot of people are just like, I'm just going to sit and watch Netflix all day. And that's like, but then at the end of the day, you're like tired. It's like so weird. And so I love that both of y'all mentioned something that you loved, like working out or like carpentry, things like that. So that's really, really cool. I love that. Talking about coffee, it's a great segue into our last question. I believe it is our last question. You made it, guys. Okay. I know that both of you guys like coffee. what is your go-to coffee order when you go to a coffee shop? Brittany, I know this. I feel like I know this for you, but not everybody does. So, what is your go-to coffee order when you go to a coffee shop?
I'm a black coffee all the way. So I will either get an Americano or a pour over. And you know, typical 5, I want to know everything there is to know about coffee. I roast coffee, you know, so I ask questions. I'm like, hey, what do you guys have right now?
Yeah.
I like the specialty coffee shops because I want the good coffee.
Yes.
I like a good black cup of coffee.
I am a witness to that.
Yes. She knows. Every time I go into a coffee shop, I'm like, I can tell if it's a good coffee shop.
Yeah.
By how their black coffee tastes. And I'm like, if the black coffee isn't good, nothing else is going to be good.
Yeah.
So
it's true. That's true.
I'm also a black coffee drinker, but nowadays I like to have a couple shots of espresso in my coffee with the black coffee.
Dang, that is like.
Yeah.
Woo!
I've acquired an interesting taste now. So even like at home, I'll make coffee, and I'm like, man, we got to get an espresso maker because I need a shot. I need 2-3 shots here. Like, it's. Yes. I'm not tired. Sleep to me, like people talk about your day being restful, like you need like 8 hours.
Yeah,
sleep to me is unimportant. I need enough to function, but I don't really care to sleep. So I
don't totally agree on that. I need sleep.
I love that.
No,
like Elf. I got a full 40 minutes.
I know. Yeah, I'll take the L on that. That's me. Yeah,
that's so funny.
Black coffee with 2 shots of espresso. That'd be my go-to drink.
That's amazing. I love shots of espresso. I just shared a post. I don't know if you saw it on Facebook, but there's this video of like this barista talking about different drinks, and one of them is an undertow. It brought me back to college, man. I was like, I remember like those nights when I was like, it was really late at the library and like I had to study for a final or something dumb, and I would just be like so tired because my threshold is like, I wish I was a night. Well, now I'm a little bit more of a night owl, but when I was in college, I was not.
Nine's value sleep, man.
Oh,
Dane sleeps. I'm like envious of his ability to sleep.
Oh, not okay. So a lot of people would be those people that would put on all-nighters, you know, like in college. I am not that person. Once 12 o'clock hit, I was like, I'm done. I can't retain anything. I can't read anymore. And so sometimes I would go and just order an undertow and just take it. Like I was like, and it still wouldn't work. But I remember that I would just take it just in case it would. Give me that little push, and sometimes it would. If I was at the library, maybe, but if I was just at home, but it brought me back because I love it. It's just shots of espresso, a little bit of milk, maybe some vanilla, and just take it in, and it was just awesome. So it just brought me back. I was like, oh, it kind of like gave me nostalgia, and then also I'm like, I really don't miss like exams and things like that, so it was not that like crazy, but I do miss it. But you guys made it. Thank you guys so much for doing this. This was awesome. I feel like I learned a lot, and I feel like a lot of people are gonna learn a lot about you and just what 5s are. And yeah, this was really great. Thank y'all for doing this.
Thanks for having us on. This was
fun. I know y'all are both parents, and so this is just wonderful that you guys did this after hours.
Yeah.